You're listening to Thresholds Into Other Realms. I'm Anthony Kay. With me is Sam Ronto and John Stevenson. Here we are. We're talking to Rob Veach, and we're talking about some of the technology that he's been using to capture ghosts and all sorts of stuff.
John knows quite well technology and ghost hunting and everything else is really vital today, and there are so many very, very good instruments to use. And one thing that you're making use of is 3D anaglyph video. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm really into the 3D, and I have custom mounted Canon cameras that I made a mount for, and I think it's interesting to possibly capture an entity in 3D. And the reason I say it is because there's a lot of depth in the 3D, and you could rule out a lot of things like dust and other abnormalities in the signal and in the image. So 3D can be utilized, and any data I'll get, I will make an anaglyph of. I also will keep the left and right images so that it can be put into other software programs to analyze. But that's just something I just started. I do a lot of 3D videos, but I want to also use that for the paranormal research along with these other devices that I developed.
What's your best find, or what's a photo or an EVP, or what stands out for you?
Well, right now, I have really invested a lot of time into equipment here, and I need to go out, and I have some investigations lined up, and I have some evidence that I haven't presented yet. And as you know, the editing phase of things takes a lot of time, and what I want to do is I want to edit these things to be an informative and entertaining way, and so I haven't really posted anything. But I've got some interesting results that I'm going to be posting using this new device is called Paratalk, and I think this is something that is unique in the sense that most people think that entities can hear us verbally or acoustically, like we're speaking on the phone right here. And I think a lot of these entities reside and communicate on some of the FM bands and AM bands as a form of energy, frequency energy. So I'm kind of excited to be using a new device really soon that's going to hopefully open up the communication channels in this realm.
Yeah, new devices are always good to test them out. You never know. Sometimes you get a winner. Other times nothing comes up. But then again, that doesn't mean it doesn't work. It could just be something's not there.
Right. There's a lot of time involved and a lot of waiting to get anything, and I'm perfectly happy not getting anything. What I'm trying to do here is put some validity to it, and to use a lot of the standard instrumentations like the K2 and the millimeters and the paracorders and the full spectrum cameras and infrared thermal technology and ghost pockets and stuff. And I feel that all these things are just aids to help you understand if there's anything out there. So when I don't get something phenomenal, that's fine. I'm really trying to find locations that I do get something interesting, and then present it in such a way that it's informative for the public to see.
I'm always out at Bachelor's Grove. That's my large website, and I always tell people sometimes you're going to go there and it's going to feel like you walked into a haunted house. Other times it's just like a walk in the park. Even though it's said to be so haunted, it's not haunted every time you're there, or else they just don't want to interact with you.
Right, exactly. I love Bachelor's Grove, and that's one of my places I'm going to be going many times this summer, and that's really why I built a lot of this equipment. And I was actually looking at your website, Bachelor's Grove. I find it fascinating, and like you said, most people have said it feels like a walk in a park, and other people have said you feel a heaviness in the air when you go in there. I'm going to really bring all this equipment there, and I'm going to be setting up some rotational cameras, some full spectrum cameras, some paraspectrum cameras, and I'm going to have a lot of this technology in the view of the camera as the camera is rotating, and I'm going to be talking on the Paratalk on all these bands of frequencies, and I'm going to be listening on the ghost box. I'm going to go there many times and just see if I can get anything and get any EVPs. And like I said, if I don't get anything, that's fine too. But I want to bring this equipment that I've kind of modified for this realm to a place like that I think is pretty active and hopefully I can get something there and document it on my YouTube channel.
Yeah, you have to let me know when you go out there. I know all kinds of places out there. Actually, it'd be the north-facing side of the graveyard there. There's quite a bit of shadow activity, shadow people or whatever that's caught quite a bit. They seem to be between the swamp and the graveyard itself, walking through that area.
Oh, yeah, I've seen videos of weird things over there in that area. And, there's all these different stories about things, but it's really fascinating how people have gotten EVPs that are Class A, Class B, Class C, and they're really not even going there. Some people are videotaping, they're getting them on their video recorder. So, and again, they're not hearing anything, and it's always afterwards in the post-production or after listening to it, they actually hear something. So that's a really neat place, and we're fortunate, I guess, that we're in Illinois. We have something that's that unique.
The AVPs there are pretty good. I got a Class A one there that quite clearly says, "I'm going to kill you," in a kind of a harsh voice. And it's crystal clear. I didn't even have to use anything to modify anything. I mean, it came right off the recorder like that.
Wow, that's not a real welcoming AVP to get, is it?
No, I actually had a new website member out there. I'll take new members out there and show them the place, and I gave him my recorder, and he has it there. I think he was annoying him because he was asking questions and then ask another one instantly, not giving it a chance to talk. So it plays that. He thinks he hears something, hits playback. I'm clear across the graveyard, and I hear it clear as can be. "I'm going to kill you." I'm like, okay, that's a good welcome to the graveyard.
Can you imagine there being at night? Of course, you can't be there at night, but
yeah,
that would be unbelievable.
Yeah, there's active stuff there. I physically have heard, I heard a woman call my name once. Nobody was in the graveyard. I go there in the mornings when it's quiet. Walking out there, clear as could be. I heard someone go, "John." And I just turned around because it was that clear, and there's no one there, no one anywhere in the graveyard. So I'm thinking like, I'm like, I must visit there too much. They know me by name now.
Now, something like that happens, you get a little creeped out, or is it your?
No, actually, it didn't. It wasn't an intimidating, scary voice. It was an older lady just going, "John," and I honestly thought someone was standing behind me. So I just turned around and I'm like, "Yeah," and there's no one there, and I'm like, "Wow, that's weird." So then I get my recorder out. I go, "You want to talk? You want to sing?" Nothing else, just that. She knew my recorder wasn't on, so she was playing with me.
She wanted to sing. She should have started hum a few bars or something of something.
That cemetery is amazing. The footage and the things you get there are sometimes really good.
Yeah, that is a cool place. No question about it.
What other places you like out here? Where would you go to?
Well, I have. There's a place in Oswego that is called the Angel House, and it's a little shop where they have kind of a lot of activity going on, and they really don't want to advertise too much of it. But I'm going to be doing an investigation there next week or so, 2 weeks, and that place had some kind of a fire in the 1800s, and it was one of those places that worked with slaves and hid them, I guess, and there was some slaves that got killed there in the fire. So there's some interesting things there, and I hope to bring all the equipment there and do it during the day, and because it's a little shop where people can buy things, and hopefully I can do that without getting in people's way, and then maybe we'll go back there at night also. And another thing I've noticed is the paranormal field. There's a lot of these ghost tours and things where they get groups of people going together, and I'm really not interested in doing that. I'm really looking for things that are more unique and less oriented towards the general public. And some other things that I'm going to be doing is, you're driving along the road and you see these crosses on the road where people have died. And I'm going to be investigating some of those. There's some real interesting things that I think are involved in some of them locally in Kendall County and DuPage County. And I'm going to be bringing some equipment there and looking at those things, So I'm really at this phase now where I want to utilize this equipment and start getting some data and then present it. So I'm really excited about this, and I think that, with an open mind and with the right equipment, and I think you could really demonstrate some interesting results, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Have you ever heard of Auxiliary Sable Cemetery? I believe it's in Morris.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
You've been out to that one before?
I have not been out there. No, I haven't. But you know, I've got the mixed feelings about cemeteries because you know, my son always says to me, Stephen, he says, you know, why you want to go there? Because why would they be there? They didn't die there. They're not tragically, you know, killed there or natural death there. You know, so it's kind of an interesting question. But I don't know. I've seen some really interesting results, especially with the paraspectrum cameras, like from Monotronic.com. I have one of their cameras, and it has a filter on there that will filter out light that we see and only lets in infrared and ultraviolet. And I've seen some really interesting results at a lot of cemeteries. So, you know, I don't know why entities would be there, but that's something I want to investigate. And again, I'm going to investigate, you know, various ones. I don't always want to go to somewhere where somebody has said they're going to get something other than Bachelor's Grove, but obviously there's certain hot spots that you want to go to. But it'd be interesting just to go to different cemeteries and see what I can get with this equipment. Well, so that's why I'm really slated to go to Bachelor's Grove many times this summer.
Well, ghosts are everywhere, too. I always tell people that. They're not just at graveyards. They're in the mall, they're in the store, they're everywhere. Everywhere they used to be as people. So you don't have to go to a graveyard, but they tend to be higher in those areas. But heck, you can go to the mall down the street and find a ghost.
Yeah, that's neat. Yeah, I believe that too. I mean, you know, nobody has all the answers about everything, so we really don't understand everything about them. We don't understand why they're here, what communication techniques that they use, what energy levels they need, what energy they can use. You know, so that's the thing that always interests me in the paranormal is, you know, there's a lot of people involved in it that you know, really don't know the equipment, and they kind of don't demonstrate what they're getting properly. I'm really going to try and do things in a technical sense and use this equipment and demonstrate it properly. And, you know, an example of that is you see people using ghost boxes all the time. And I have a ghost box. It's actually called a PSB7. And it's from DAS Distribution. And the thing that's unique about it is it scans the frequencies. It scans the FM band or the AM band. And what it does is like having an old tuner, an old television where you would change the channels rapidly. And it goes through and it changes all the channels trying to listen. I've seen people pick up things and then they think, well, they got some kind of intelligent response. And then you look at the response and I analyze it and I see that it's a radio station coming in, you know, saying some words. So I made an instructional video on my channel that talked about how to analyze the data that comes off a ghost box so that you can actually make sure that what you're seeing is more than one channel change in between, so that you know that if an entity is going to communicate, it's not going to stay on one frequency. It's going to be on multiple frequencies because, you know, they're not electronics. They can't really tune into a channel. So by using the ghost box and using a real simple editing software, you can actually look at the data you're getting and you can actually see if it's a real response. And get a lot of people ask me about that, and they look at that video, and they finally start using this equipment right, because you can really get fooled by this. And the last thing I want to do is show some result that's not real in some sense. And I'm trying to put some validity to this whole paranormal stuff.
Yeah, that's hard to do. I've actually never used a ghost box myself. I've seen them a few times. I've been with people, but I know people that swear by them, but yet when I listen to what they hear, I don't hear nothing. And they hear full conversations and stuff, so I've actually never had too much faith in those. It's almost like pixelation in audio. I mean, I think you hear what you want to hear. Not that they don't work. I just don't think they work as often as people think.
You have a very good technical lexicon here. What is your background?
My background is electrical engineering. I actually worked for 11 years for AT&T Bell Laboratories. When it was not Lucent at that point, it was still Bell Laboratories in Naperville, Illinois. And so my background was engineering in college, and so I did engineering research work for Bell Labs for 11 years. And then I started business where I was doing robotics, and I have a really big Halloween show that I do called the Jefferson Graveyard Show. Kind of interesting that I'm into the paranormal, and I have about 7 life-size dead robots in my basement. So
that's cool.
It's kind of creepy in a way, but you know, hopefully one of these days I'll bring some entity into this house, and they'll be so scared when they see these characters that they'll leave the speed of light.
Yeah, hopefully you don't bring an entity in, because sometimes
they don't like to
some of
leave.
the ones that come in aren't very happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but once they see these robots of mine, I don't think they'll stick around too long.
Yeah, or else they just do a little magic and bring all the robots to life.
Yeah.
Then you got a whole army after you.
So how did your interest in the paranormal start?
Actually it started many years ago, a couple experiences I've had, but in the last 5 years, the interest of all the different paranormal shows on TV, I kind of saw how the researchers were doing their job on these shows. And, I have to be honest with you, a lot of the attraction to me initially was the technology and the engineering side of it. And I also was getting kind of frustrated with some of the shows and with a lot of what people are getting on some of these channels on YouTube and other places. And I jumped into it because I wanted to kind of clear the air a little bit and present things more technically, I guess. That's my background. So I just thought it would be interesting for somebody to get involved in this that kind of has a technical background that's not specifically in this field, and utilize some custom equipment, like we talked about, to really analyze things and see if I get some interesting responses. And if I don't, that's fine too. I'm really a skeptic at heart, and I will only present what I think is really valid data on my YouTube channel, the VParanormal1.
Yeah, I actually don't watch any of those shows. I don't like any of the ghost shows. I think they put everything in a bad light.
Well,
they tend to. The thing that obviously people don't realize that they're watching 14, 15, 16 hours of data collection being edited into about 22 minutes. So it's amazing what they get, and they do get a lot of interesting things. I think the biggest thing that I just get annoyed with is their upsells before they go to a commercial. Oh, they make something dramatic and then they come back.
Right.
And there's really nothing there. I don't appreciate that. But other than that, some of the shows do get some interesting things. And again, they're going to the hot spots and they're spending many, many hours to get that, and it's being edited down to 22 minutes. And I'm sure Anthony, knows that, how much editing work that is and everything. So they're doing a service in that sense, but again, they're doing a disservice in some ways because the way they present the material and the lack of technology and the lack of technical skill some of them have, unfortunately. But
you got to do it. I mean, I've got 8-hour video on 4 cameras. I took at Waverly in Kentucky, and I still haven't even gone through all that, and it's been 2 years. It's just 8 hours at 4 cameras. You got to look in real time to look for stuff. It's quite time consuming.
Yeah, editing takes a long time.
So you got to give them credit for that. The fact that they're producing really something that of interest from a lot of data, and so it's very time consuming. Just like any show's time consuming. Just like the show you're doing right here. You spend a lot of time on it, but from that point of view, they're doing a service because they're condensing everything down for people to see, and it's entertainment too.
Well, yeah.
There's an entertainment side to this also. So
especially what's that one ghost show they always scream. They get locked in places looking for a ghost. They see a ghost and they run out screaming.
Ghost Hunters.
No, not Ghost Hunters. It's the other one. Ghost
some of
Adventures
these shows,
or something.
you can tell they have no production on. They don't do any production on any of these shows. They just throw them together. I mean, I've seen some of these shows at midnight and stuff where they just show them running in there, and you can tell it's just all put together and all staged. And
what I don't like is when they do it and they're looking for something, and something actually responds, and they start screaming and run. I mean, that's the reason we're in there to find this stuff. You don't run away when you actually find it.
Yeah, and what I don't understand is how they're running away when they're in total darkness, because most of these shows, they're in total darkness and they have infrared or perispectral cameras. Maybe they have a small LED light or something, or a lantern or something, but I sure wouldn't be running in a dark environment like that, especially places where there's debris, and they go to these old hospitals and stuff. And yeah, the show you're referring to is Ghost Adventures.
That's the one.
Travel Channel.
What I don't understand.
That's a popular show, but I don't like it.
What I don't understand is how is it they don't come out with creeping gamboo, lung diseases, and all sorts of nasty pathogens in these horrible environments, stuffed up and nasty and gross. I'm a clean freak. It drives me nuts.
You'd never be a good ghost hunter.
No, I've been in places like that doing ghost hunting, and I'd always get sick. I can't stand it.
Well, they actually do get sick. Actually, Zach, the lead investigator, if you notice, he wears a mask most of the time now because he's actually had some problems. You know, and you know, it's amazing they don't break limbs and things like that. But you're right,
kidding.
They're going to these asbestos-laden, you know, moldy places. You know, the mold alone could get you. You know, so and they're spending large amounts of hours there. 18 hours I've read typically on, you know, a location. So, you know, but that's what it takes to get something. And maybe those grungy environments are more of a host to entities. You know, I certainly wouldn't be there unless it was really a highly active place and it was worth their while. You know, another thing that's interesting is one thing I noticed is you don't see a lot of shows investigating places outside, you know, like cemeteries. Like,
right.
You know, I don't understand why that is, but maybe because it's not as dramatic with the night and the darkness and the infrared. I don't know, but just like you said earlier, John, you know, that these entities can be really anywhere. You don't have to be necessarily in these old institutions or old hospitals or old abandoned buildings, you know. But that seems to be the interest level people want to see.
Well, another misconception is too that you must go in nighttime, which is irrelevant to a spirit. But it's just for that scare factor on yourself. But in reality, it can be, you know, any time of day. And if it's active, it's active.
Exactly, right. And that's it's an interesting point you make, and that's one of the reasons why I have multiple cameras. Like I have a paraspectrum camera, which actually can be used in bright sunlight because it actually filters the actual white light out and lets just the infrared and ultraviolet. Then I have a night vision kind of camera that is ultraviolet, infrared, you know. But you're right; they could be anywhere. And yeah, as proof, Bachelor's Grove, obviously, you know, people don't even go there at night because it's not allowed, and people get things all the time. So these shows tend to always be in the dark, and they're always walking around in the dark also. And you know, I have got a lot of dark night equipment here too, so I'm kind of caught up in the same thing. But hopefully, I will do both types of investigations. You know, another thing I wanted to mention, since we're talking about lighting and ghosts and everything, I always notice that a lot of these shows, they always blast a really concentrated ultraviolet light on the host or on the wall, and it's always really jerky and everything.
Right.
That's another thing that really annoyed me about these shows. So what I'm going to try to do is I have a really balanced infrared light that I designed, and I think I mentioned to you a camera rotation system that's very quiet, very slow, and I'm going to try and make things a little slow down and a little more less jumpy and jerky, because you know, if you think you saw something, I want to be able to really document that and have a really accurate camera moving slowly, not some jerky host moving around with the camera blasting against the wall saying he's all shadow. So I'm going to try and present things in a much slower format and hopefully get something and then be able to demonstrate it that way.
Well, that rotor system you made is a good speed. I mean, it's nice and slow. The ones I have are actually professional surveillance modem or rotors, and they go faster, and they wouldn't be as good. That one you have is actually perfect.
Yeah, and actually I just modified it. You know, right before you called me, I took apart some batteries, and I actually have a one-cell lithium polymer, and I tried it on there, and it's 1/4 of the speed that you saw in the video. So I have an option of going even slower. So just for the whole point of presenting something and maybe getting some entity, and not having the camera jerk around, and then have the infrared light really evenly on the subject. And even putting the camera on a tripod. I mean, how many paranormal shows and how many paranormal YouTubers even know what a tripod is? I mean, it's
obviously nobody. Yeah, if you look around, I don't think any of them know what a tripod is.
Yeah, it seems that way. And how could you present evidence if you have your image shaking all over the place. I mean, you want to present something that's stable and clear, and that's the whole idea here, is to present something or to, you know, document something. And if you don't get something, that's fine, and I'm still going to document. When I don't get something, I'm going to document the event or the investigation. But to have a jerky camera around and have it pointing into my face and moving it around and saying that I just saw a shadow, that doesn't impress me.
Yeah, well,
if I have a stationary camera, and then you can see a shadow, and you catch that, or you catch a Class A EVP, you know, that's some really solid evidence.
What I do is actually, I've been in the surveillance business, so when I set up professional surveillance cameras on tripods throughout a building, stationary, and then I'll walk around with my own personal camera and recorder and all that. But I have stationary cameras all around a home.
Right, that's fine. And then you get all the different views, and then you get this separate dynamic view with your camera. And another thing is, another simple thing is, you know, we talk about tripods in investigations for paranormal. There's also simple camera stabilizers. I have various counterweight stabilizers that you can get. You can make homemade ones. I have several homemade ones, and that just puts some stability into the camera set. And you're walking around, it's not a jerky image, you know, because a lot of these multi-spectrum or full-spectrum or paraspectrum cameras, you know, they don't have image stabilization because they usually have a very simple lens, so that there's no focus hunting going on, which is a good thing. So if you stabilize them while you're holding them or using a tripod, I think you're going to get much better results. Or do like you're saying, would you have stationary cameras with one, you know, dynamic camera moving around? You're going to get really good results doing that.
Okay. Now, in your research, have you decided that as far as on the audio end, are you going to try to come up with some other contraptions? Have you considered anything else in particular?
What I have is an Olympus digital recorder, and I actually was considering opening it up and removing the microphones and have a switch I can turn the microphones on and off, because I feel if you look at the early research on EVPs, there was a really interesting scientist, I forget his name, in the 50s. He was getting EVPs, and he was actually removing the microphone from his recorders. And he was proving that they don't really communicate through acoustic energy. They communicate through a radio frequency energy. So I'm going to experiment with that. You know, most people don't know that Edison was getting EVPs on some of his early recorders, and he actually worked on many early recorders that were using the Diamond Disc series, the diaphragm. He also was involved on the first wire recorder, which was the first magnetic recorder that used iron oxide material. So he was fascinated with EVPs, and he wrote a paper that I only saw once online. It was stating that he felt these energies were not using acoustical energy, that they were using some kind of other energy. So I want to experiment with that. And then again, I want to experiment with the Paratalk device that I developed and I haven't tested yet in the field. And again, that's going to broadcast on all the FM frequencies. It's going to scan, and it's very, very low energy because I don't want to overpower any entity. It really is extremely low power, and it's going to try and communicate to entities in two ways, with me talking acoustically like we are right now, and in parallel to that, it'll be broadcasting on the FM frequencies. And then I'm going to pair that with a ghost box to see if I get any kind of intelligent response. So those are the two things audio-wise. And then the other thing that I just worked on is I have a frequency counter, a little miniature frequency counter that I modified to be more sensitive to the FM band. And I'm going to have that on investigations also to make sure that if something is communicating back, that I know that it's not a radio station, that if I see this thing respond, and I know to, you know, not use that portion. And if this doesn't respond and I get something back on the ghost box and it matches up with what I think is going to happen on my computer in terms of analysis, then I will post that as a real response. So those are the three things that I'm working on in terms of audio or acoustics in terms of paranormal research.
It sounds like you got a handle on everything there. So many people are just taking pictures and picking up ghost, orbs, dust in your camera, and that's all they do. I'm a big anti-orb person.
So orbs is one of the worst things. I've seen some orbs. I would say 98% of orbs are just dust, but I have seen some really, really impressive orbs at Bachelor's Grove that had so much dimension to them. And that goes back to the 3D camera stuff I was talking about that you asked me about. If I'm at Bachelor's Grove or any other cemetery during the day and I'm shooting 3D pictures or 3D video and I get something that is unique like an orb, the unique thing is that with software I can really analyze that orb and I can tell you really quite easily whether it is something unique or whether it's something like a dust phenomena. And that's simply because when you're looking at it at two different angles, you get depth information. And there's even programs where you can upload that and they will actually let you make 3D prints and actually analyze it. So that's another thing I'm going to try is bring the 3D into this paranormal research to see if there's something unique about things like orbs, and that way I can hopefully see which ones are dust and which ones are something more relevant, something more interesting. Again,
the software you're using is?
The software that I'm using, there is different types of software out there for 3D. There's one program called 3D Movie Maker, which allows you to bring in left and right video and allows you to synchronize them and display them and make videos. And then there's other pieces of software from the same company. There's 3D Image Maker and things like that, Stereo Image Maker, and that allows you to bring in a left to right image. And then you could make anaglyph images from that, and then you could use that using the special angle glasses to see the 3D image that you just created. And so that's something I want to try and see if I can get some other validity to this paranormal using the 3D elements.
As far as photographic enhancing and as far as that research, have you done much, and what software do you use?
I pretty much, there's various pieces of software I use, nothing too special in that. The 3D is that one software that I mentioned, and then there's a lot of other programs that you can use, Adobe, Photoshop, things of that nature. I haven't really used a lot of programs to enhance anything because I try and keep it in its original form. When it comes to audio EVPs, I have an Adobe program that I use, and let's see, I'm on my computer right here. Let's find it right here. Right in front of me. Adobe Audition 1.5 is what I use to analyze audio. And my video editing, I use a Vegas Movie Studio Platinum 10.
Vegas is what we use for Mancow. That's the editing program Mancow uses, Sony Vegas. And then Adobe Audition, that's actually what we're using right now to record.
Where are we? Oh, okay. I love Adobe Audition. Yeah, and I think I've got an earlier version. I'm sure there's two versions later, but and that's one of the things that I used on one of my instructional videos. In fact, an interesting thing about audio analysis. I put a video together on my channel. I was communicating with the designer of the K2 meter and the Mel meter and the PSP7 Ghost Box. His name is Gary Gelka. And he was complimenting me on a video I did, and I really didn't know who Gary was at this time. And turns out he's the designer, and he designs a lot of paranormal equipment, as well as a zillion other pieces of technical equipment. And he was complimenting me on my video, and I didn't understand really what he was referring to, but he was referring to my use of Adobe Audition in analyzing anything that you get in the Ghost Box to make sure that it is valid, something unique about it. So again, these tools, these basic tools, Adobe Audition, the Movie Studio for editing, and the different programs for the 3D and other programs for pictures, they all help you to analyze your data, and then you could present your data in a scientific way and rule out whether things are abnormalities or if they're really something unique.
Now, back to the term you just said, scientifically. Obviously you wouldn't be wasting your time if you didn't think there was some validity here to what you're dealing with, and there seems to be a historical perspective. On that point, or on that note, where do you think this should be going as far as where would you like it to go if you had the resources?
I'm open-minded. When I say I'm a skeptic at heart, I think what I'm really referring to is that I think there's a lot of data that's collected that is really other phenomena. And just like anything, a large percentage of that may not be the real thing, and a smaller percentage might be the real thing. I am convinced that there is something out there. There's entities out there. There are spirits out there. We don't know necessarily what realm they're in, and I think that as this technology grows, and as people like Gary Gelka and people like myself try to build new technologies, the reason I'm doing this is to add some more validity to this and present this data that I get. So I would like to see the field gain more validity from more technology being used and being presented in a more interesting format, with some entertainment value, but also technical value, so that when people see this, the skeptics will look at it and say, you know what, that does look unique, and it was presented scientifically, and you know what, now I can believe that. Now I can believe the data that person got. And so that's where I like to see the industry go. These ghost shows become a little bit, less entertainment and more technical direction to add some more validity to this. And that's what I would like to happen.
Yeah, chances are that'll never happen, though, unfortunately.
Well, the entertainment, understand something, that Hollywood is supreme.
Right, it's
that's reality.
Value.
Reality is whatever comes out of the Hollywood trough. Now, I always say, look at Hollywood and you'll know where the direction of reality is.
As far as the skeptics go, too, I mean, you can bring them a ghost, they could shake hands with it, and they're still going to say it doesn't exist.
Yeah, the bottom line is they're so afraid of actually what they are is they're the ultimate believers. They have a dogma, and their paradigm can't be shifted or shaken. It's this way, and this is the only way it is. Where if they're anything resembling truly scientific, they should examine the phenomena and see what's genuine, what's not, and then pursue what's genuine and see what the value or the cause is, and that's science. Unfortunately,
I agree 100%. And I forgot to mention that when I was talking about the instruction video that Gary Gelka mentioned. Gary Gelka is tied in with Ghost Adventures, and he's a great guy. And they actually started showing some of their response using Adobe on the show. And I didn't know the connection to my video. If there was a connection, I should have seen that. But I was really impressed that they started showing that. So I think that maybe these shows will start to get more technical, like Ghost Hunters and Ghost Hunter International. I know Ghost Hunter International started using paraspectrum cameras, which is great. And now Ghost Hunters is trying to use more technology. They're investing more. They got a new van with all kinds of equipment and everything. So I think the technology is getting more technology-driven in this industry, and I think the technical people might get more involved in it and bring some more validity to it, and that's what I hope. That's what I'm trying to do with VParanormal1 is bring some validity to this field.
Where would people get more information?
I don't have an actual website at this point. I've got a website for my robotic characters, but that would just scare everybody. But if they go to YouTube and they just look up VParanormal1, and they can see my channel there. And on that channel, it's going to have a whole slew of new investigations on there coming up that I have to edit. And they can get more information there, and they can contact me there, too.
Great.
Okay, well, it's been interesting.
Thank you very much, Robert. Maybe we could tie up you and maybe incorporate your technology and background in some of not just the paranormal, but maybe some of the UFO stakeouts that we do and some of the research that we do.
Oh, I'd love to do that. I'd love to go work with you at Bachelor's Grove also. Bring my equipment, your equipment.
You let me know when you got
do a dual investigation.
Yeah, you got my email address out there. When you're going to go, you just let me know.
All right. Thank you very much. Robert Veach, everybody. We'll be right back. You're listening to Thresholds into Other Realms.